So today I wanted to make a little comparison between the Surface Pro and the iPad. They're both quite similar devices in how they're set up, how they look, how they act. So the only real difference I've noticed is in the graphics. The iPad Pro is a much more graphic orientated machine, but I'm going to go into more depth of the graphics and everything on a different video. This is just a general overview. So as you can see, the Surface Pro here is on the left. It fully Windows, runs Windows 10 Pro or Home, and currently right here this one is running Windows 10 Home. You can see the quality and it's full Windows and actually works very well. You have the pen here on the side. This one actually uses batteries and you can rub it and actually works very well. And actually the battery, the form of the batteries on the Surface Pro is better than the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro battery lasts around 5 hours. The Surface Pro lasts around 8 hours. You can see the iPad Pro, this is the 12.9 inches, slightly bigger than the Surface Pro. But for example, the Surface Pro can run full Windows programs such as all Adobe, Photoshop, Lightroom, even Premiere Pro. As I mentioned earlier, the graphics and the editing is not great, but on the iPad Pro, you can't run, example, Adobe Premiere Pro. It only can run, you have to get LumaFusion, which is paid, and you have to download it from the App Store. But as you can see, they're very similar machines. They work very well. As I said, the reason that I prefer this iPad Pro is because it does have a USB-C, and you can use full USB-Cs. Whereby, you can see right here, this has a full USB-C port. Whereby this on the Surface 6, it still uses the Surface connector, but it does also have the mini display port. And now keep in mind the Surface Pro 7, it does have a USB-C as well. Now in terms of price, actually the Surface Pro is more expensive than the iPad Pro. These both have 256 gigabytes. This has 6 gigs of RAM, and this one right here has 8 gigs of RAM. So, but this is also a full Windows machine, whereby this one is more a tablet laptop. Personally, I would prefer the iPad Pro at the moment due to it has a much more powerful chip. This has an Intel i7 and this has the Apple Bionic A13. So as you can imagine, the Apple Bionic A13 is much faster and is a much better chip for editing, and this has really problems with editing. But generally speaking, they're both really good machines. The Surface Pro, as you know, you can attach the full keyboard. The keyboard also comes in at around $300–400, the same as the keyboard here. The advantage of the iPad Pro now is that the keyboard actually gives you an extra USB-C, which the Surface Pro does not. But again, the Surface Pro is a much more laptop-orientated machine. It's a portable laptop. It's a 2-in-1, as you guys call it in the States, whereby the iPad is actually a tablet. But you can see the differences between the two quite drastically. So it's more a preference. Me, I would always take the iPad Pro due to its editing capabilities, but the Surface Pro is definitely a really good device. Now keep in mind, even the Surface Pro 7 has the same graphics chip as the Microsoft Surface Pro 6. They only change a little bit from Iris to UHD. So this one uses UHD and the 7 uses the Iris. The interesting comparison, if you really are interested in getting a Microsoft device that I think would be an interesting comparison to the iPad Pro, and that's the Microsoft Surface Book 3, which I hope to get soon, but as you know, it's quite expensive, and it would be interesting to put those two head-to-head, because the Surface Book 3 actually uses the NVIDIA 1050 graphics, which is similar to what my gaming laptop uses downstairs. But between these two, as you can see, they're quite similar. They're both similar devices. Obviously, the Surface Pro has the advantage that, as you can see, it has a built-in stand in the back. The iPad does not have a built-in stand. It's standing right now because I bought this cover, which you can get cheap covers and everything. The pens are really similar. As I said, the advantage of this pen, for example, is that it's Bluetooth and it charges automatically from the iPad, whereby this one is battery powered, and also it's AAA batteries. But really, again, it's a preference. If you want a more Windows-based full laptop, then the Surface Pro is the way to go. If you want a more tablet experience that you can turn into a laptop, then the iPad is the way to go.